Hey, Yorba Linda, in the beginning of this year, things started off pretty hot in the housing market. We were seeing interest rates in the high fives, homes were getting multiple offers on them, but since then, things have started to slow down. So homes are sitting longer, we're seeing more price reductions, buyers are being more selective about which homes they decide to place an offer on. So what's changed and what should you expect over the next couple months in the housing market? That's exactly what we're going to talk about on today's Yorba Linda housing market forecast for this summer. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, so like all these episodes, first let's talk about what's happening in the Yorba Linda housing market right now, and then let's go over what to expect over the next couple months as we head through summer, and then finally I'll wrap it up with my advice for both buyers and sellers as we head into the summertime if you're thinking of getting into the market. So first, let's go ahead and talk about what's happening in Yorba Linda right now. And right now, we're almost at an identical spot as we were last year at this same time when you look at almost all the numbers. So we have about 112 homes on the market right now. Inventory is slowly starting to creep up. Last year at this time, we had about 118. About 53% of homes are going into escrow above asking price. Last year it was 55. And right now it's taking about 56 days to get a home into escrow. Last year it was 59. So we're seeing almost identical numbers to last May. So using that data and then looking at the typical trends that we see happen in the Yorba Linda housing market as we head through summer, we can generally expect to see inventory continue to climb as we head through summer all the way till early fall. And we can see demand start to slowly drop. This is because buyers are starting to have their kids get out of school, they're going on vacation, they're going to pool parties, going to the beach. Home buying is not top of the priority list like it was during the springtime, so buyer demand tends to go down a little bit and inventory tends to build. At the same time, you start seeing that inventory stick around a little bit longer on the market as we head deeper and deeper into summer. So I know a lot of you are probably wondering, what does this mean for housing prices in Yorba Linda as we head through summer? Well, right now, we're actually in a pretty balanced market in Yorba Linda, which means both the buyers and sellers are on even playing field. Both have very similar leverage when they're placing offers, which means you can expect that you're not going to see a lot of appreciation over the summer in the housing market, but at the same time, you're not going to see any major swings up or down. It's just going to be a generally healthy housing market where you're going to be able to go out, buyers are going to take their time, find the house they want, sellers will definitely have competition out there, and so they're going to need to make sure that they're marketing and making sure their house sticks up above everybody else's when they place it on the market. Now, all of that being said, the biggest factor that always determines what's going to happen in the housing market looking forward is going to be interest rates. And because we've seen such wild swings in interest rates over the last couple years, we have a pretty good understanding of when demand starts dropping off significantly and when demand starts picking up significantly depending on the rate is. So right now, interest rates are hovering around 6.4% as I'm recording this. And what we've seen in the past is when interest rates get up close to that 7% range, that's when demand significantly drops up. If we saw interest rates go up to that 7% range again this summer, you can start making a case to actually see home prices slightly go down if we ever got rates back up to that 7% again. Now on the other end of things, if rates get down to 6% or even lower, expect the market to pick back up significantly and you're likely going to see multiple offers on a lot of homes because that's exactly what we saw in February as well as October of last year when we started seeing interest rates go down for a couple weeks at a time below that 6% range. So really it's going to depend on what happens to interest rates. Right now at 6.4%, we're seeing a pretty equal housing market. So again, the buyers and sellers are on very equal playing fields. And so if they stay that range, again, expect you don't see much appreciation over the next couple months. However, if rates go down, you might see a little bit more appreciation. If rates go up, you're going to see less appreciation, which makes sense, but that's what you want to look at in terms of watching the housing market to figure out what rates are doing, because that's really dictating what is happening in the housing market more than anything else right now. Now, in terms of where rates might go this summer and what's impacting that the most, well, right now you have the Iran war as well as inflation are going to be the key drivers on what you can expect to see in interest rates over the next couple months. So let's talk about that real quick. So in late February, early March, right before the war broke out, we saw some of the lowest interest rates that we've seen in over 3 years, where rates were hovering under 6% for a small time frame. But as soon as that war broke out, we saw rates jump up to 6.7%, and really they've remained elevated ever since. Right now, again, we're hovering around 6.4%, and we've been going between about 6.6 and 6.2% up and down, depending what the news of the day brought. So until that conflict has some type of resolution to it, there's going to be uncertainty in the market. When there's uncertainty in the market, interest rates are going to remain elevated. Now, on top of that, because of the type of war it is that's impacting oil prices as well, inflation has been going up, especially over the last 2 months, and that also keeps interest rates up as well. So because of those two things together, we're not really expecting to see interest rates drop anytime soon unless there's some type of resolution to this that's going to drop oil prices and some type of long-term agreement where you're not going to have any more issues with Iran for the foreseeable future. Unless that happens, you can expect interest rates to stay relatively calm around this range over the entire summer. And one final thing with the war going on in Iran right now, it's also impacting both buyer and seller sentiment, which is keeping buyers on the sideline to wait to see what happens, and the same thing on the seller side as well. So it's impacting both buyers, sellers, and interest rates. So again, unless we see a resolution to that sometime soon, it's going to continue to highly impact the housing market until we actually get to that point. Even after we get to that point, understand that inflation is going to take a while to come down, so rates might drop a little bit, but don't expect them to drop below 6% again for the foreseeable future until we get inflation under control, as well as some type of resolution for the Iran war. Now let's go ahead and look at my advice for both buyers and sellers who are thinking of getting into the market over the next couple months, and let's start with buyers first. So buyers, the most obvious advantage for you right now is that over the next couple months, you should have more and more homes to choose from, which means you can take more and more time to find that perfect home, and the market is going to slow down and favor you a little bit more as we go through the rest of summer. On top of that, you'll be able to continue to ask for a little bit more from sellers in terms of repairs to the house, or possibly credits to help you with closing costs, or you can use some of that credit, which a lot of buyers don't know, to help buy down your interest rate to get a lower mortgage payment. So there's a lot of creative ways you can use that money to be able to set yourself up for success when you're trying to purchase a property. Now, the biggest thing to understand is that we are not in a buyer's market right now. There's still over half the homes on the market selling above asking price right now, which means that if you have a house that is move-in ready, good condition, and priced correctly, those homes can still get multiple offers on them in the first weekend, so you need to be prepared to act. Now, on the other hand, if you see a home that's been sitting on the market for months, maybe has done a few price reductions, those are the homes that you might be able to get a little bit better deal on if the seller is motivated to get it sold, because the competition is going to be a lot lower. So as always, you want to make sure that you approach every house as a unique opportunity, and then make a decision with your agent on the best route for placing an offer to maximize your benefit as you're trying to get into a new home. Okay, so now for the seller side. So the first thing you need to understand is you're going to have more competition the farther the summer goes along, and because of that, you can't just throw a house on the market and expect it to sell. You need to do more prep than you've had to do in a while to make sure your house stands out above everybody else's. If your house is not move-in ready right now, it's time to take some time and go through and get your house as clean, organized as possible, possibly a new coat of paint, fixing those things that have been on the honey to-do list for a couple years now that haven't been fixed, to make sure that your home does stand out when you put it on the market. And then the second thing is you need to make sure that you price it correctly. An overpriced home in today's market is just going to sit there. Whether it's move-in ready or not, buyers have more time to look at the comparable sales. They know if it's overpriced or not, and you're not going to get the traffic you need to sell your house if you overprice it in today's market. So making sure you have a great marketing strategy. Understand that the price that you put your house on the market is not necessarily the price that it's going to sell for. The price you put on the market, I always tell sellers, is your marketing strategy, not what you're expecting to get for the house. You need to look at what's been selling recently, as well as what's currently on the market, so you can position yourself in a way that's going to maximize the amount of buyers coming into your house to get the most amount of eyeballs, the most amount of offers, and ultimately the best price for your house. So some of the basic things you should think about doing as a seller right now is if your house hasn't been painted recently, a fresh coat of paint is one of the easiest ways to make it look clean and new again. And then first impressions are everything. So making sure the front yard is freshly landscaped, you have new mulch in the yard, making sure that as buyers walk up to it, they're impressed by it, as well as when you take photos of the property, which in more than 90% of cases is the first time home buyers are going to see your house is online now. You need to make sure that those photos are looking as good as possible and really position your house above everybody else's on the market. So make sure you talk to a licensed real estate agent and get that plan in place on what you can do to maximize your return on investment when you eventually place your home on the market. And then finally, if you already live in Yorba Linda or you're thinking of moving to this area and you want more information on a weekly basis on what's happening around the city, what new places are opening up, food reviews, as well as a weekly update on the real estate market, I have a weekly newsletter that I put out. You can find that either in the description below or the link in my bio, depending on where you're watching this. Sign up, you get it weekly, and that gives you all the information that you need to know about living in Yorba Linda. So until next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you on the next show. Bye, everyone.